Yeah. So I think I'm going to do a quick video on why Slimming World works. I'm going to say why Slimming World works for me and why I think it's a really functional weight loss and maintenance diet slash lifestyle choice. So I'm going to just kind of, I've got a few bits written down here, so I'm going to read them and then kind of elaborate from there. I feel like maybe this should be a bit higher, so I might hold it with my hand like that, otherwise I'm all looking down at myself. Okay, so I've got, first thing I've got is the support is overwhelming. Magazine, group, Facebook, YouTube, website, app, inspirational stories online, net mums, etc. So when I first joined Slimming World, the second time I joined Slimming World, everything was all a lot more updated, and there's such a tremendous amount of support. I don't tend to use all of it nowadays, but when I first joined, like, it was just loads of it. It felt like it was impossible to fail because of so many ways in which you could access motivation that, you know, there's just, you sort of vaguely feel, you know, unmotivated, and there's just so much. You can reread your magazines, you can you know, it depends on the type of person you are. I'm not overly keen on Facebook, but if you like Facebook, then you can always message people instantly. You know, it's I've found YouTube personally an incredibly useful tool, because I can be listening to it while I'm making dinner, so it inspires me to keep on track to making a Slimming World dinner. There's so much, and I think that's why Slimming World is a very effective tool, because there's just so much out there for support. Next one along I've got, it allows you to be in control rather than being dictated to. So Slimming World is quite similar to my degree course I did, was called Art Design by Negotiated Studies, and it meant that I wrote my own modules and I could be in control of what I wanted to achieve, and then I achieved it, and then it was my thing that I'd achieved. And I think it's very similar to that. It's not, it gives you a framework within which to work, and then you choose what you're going to do with it. And I think that's where it works, because it puts the control back in your hands. So unlike other types of diets, for example, as per usual, doing too much on my phone and overheat my phone a little bit. It just kicked me out. So it's too hot to record a video. So I'd got to, Slimming World allows you to be in control rather than being dictated to. So I feel Slimming World puts you firmly in the driving seat. It doesn't say what you should have, what you shouldn't have. It just sets you some few small little brackets. Even the Healthy Extra B's, it says that it's a good idea to have your one and your, one hex B and one hex A, but it gives you a very wide bracket to which to choose the types of things you're going to eat. So I think that's why it works. It's not complicated, and if and when you go off track, it's exceedingly simple to just carry on. So I know it's complicated when you first look at it, but once you get the idea of what you're doing, it's not a very complicated idea. It's basic healthy eating, and when you have a wobble, it's just kind of easier to get. It's easy to get back on the free food, the speed food. You know, you can. It's a very. It's not a complicated thing whereby you're making lots of juices and smoothies, or it's not complicated whereby you need to make sure that you're eating, that you mustn't food combine, you mustn't eat potatoes with meat, or it's not complicated whereby you're You need to make sure all your food's organic, or it's a very simple way of looking at things. I feel it provides a framework that works perfectly so that you can be adventurous within the limits and be confident that you will lose weight. So it provides a nice framework so that you can then choose how you spend what you're doing. You can still cook, you can still bake, you can still try out a new dish, you can all of those types of things, but you still know you're going to lose weight, so you can almost be okay again with your food. You can be like, well, let's try this out, let's try that out, and you can still be okay. That you don't have to be sort of thinking, I've had too much of that, I had too much of this. There's a bit of freedom within that thing, so you can be adventurous with your foods. The food it is based on is affordable and healthy, and I've saved a lot of money. So initially, when I did Slimming World, I felt that it's very expensive. Firstly, you're doing £5 a week, and the types of foods like all the Muller lights and the quark's quite expensive. And I hope I've stopped overheating my phone now. I've deleted some videos and such. Trying to do too much. So yeah, the food is based on is affordable and healthy. Muller lights and such are quite expensive, but I think as soon as I realised that I didn't need to buy those types of foods, I could just base it on fruit and vegetables, pulses, grains, and those types of things. It all got a little bit cheaper, so it doesn't have to be very expensive. And so for that, I think it works, because it doesn't require you to spend a tremendous amount of money on odd foods that nobody else in the household is going to eat. The other one I've said is it allows guilt to be limited in terms of you don't have to give up chocolate and crisps, etc. However, often when you do Slimming World for a long time, the tendency to eat those things diminishes slightly. So it's completely removed in terms of you're totally allowed to eat chocolate and crisps. You've got to sort of be aware to fit them in your sin allowance. But yeah, when you do Slimming World for a long time, you don't, I think because of the variety of sins you can have, you start to think about, well, what else can I eat then? What else? And I think the guilt side of things, in terms of often when we do a diet of some sort, we say, okay, no more chocolate, no more crisps, we're not going to do any of those things anymore. It makes it harder to give them up, really, because then you're sort of limiting yourself unnecessarily. It's not great to have chocolate and crisps, realistically, in terms of like healthy diet and that, but Slimming World doesn't ask you to give them up, which makes it a very, very much easier diet to stick to, because it means that whatever you want to eat, you can eat. It's just certain things have to be a little bit more moderated than others. Slimming World makes no judgments on whether you're using white pasta or brown pasta, and I think that's a big thing for me, because brown pasta is a bit more expensive. Like basics pasta, the cheapest you can get is usually white. It's both spaghetti and normal, like penne or fusilli or something like that. Fusilli, I think. So Slim and Well works for that bit because it doesn't ask you to choose. Doesn't ask you to choose. It says, I remember it saying in the book somewhere that, you know, wholemeal and whole wheat stuff is better for you, but it doesn't say that you have to have it in order to lose weight. And I think that's a big thing because, you know, those extra pence saved there can kind of make a big difference. I remember looking at Weight Watchers and their kind of filling and healthy plan, which is similar to Slimming World, and you could eat as many like crumpets and stuff like that as you wanted and things like that. And I thought, yeah, I mean, maybe I could do Weight Watchers. That would be really useful. You know, maybe it would allow me to eat more and stuff. And then it said that like the free stuff was kind of brown rice and that. And I just thought, nope, no, it's just not going to work. Apart from the fact that brown rice takes about 20 minutes and white rice takes about 10 minutes. There's, you know, sometimes half an hour. It depends on the brown rice. I'm just like, nah, it's not going to work. So I appreciate the fact that Slim Well works for me because you can just eat cheapy pasta, cheapy rice, cheapy spaghetti, and that just keeps the costs down. It just becomes a lot more easier. You don't have to be sort of, it doesn't get in your way. It doesn't get in my way anyway. Okay, so I've got, you can make a very comforting meal and fill yourself right up. You don't have to use external moderation. Due to the food you are eating, your natural I'm full signal will allow you to gauge. This will not happen straight away, but over time will develop. I quite often now am really enjoying something and then I feel my brain just say, I have had enough and I am no longer interested. So, Slimming World allows you, allows is the wrong word, when you do Slimming World, types of food you eat, are perfectly acceptable to make a giant old like shepherd's pie or spaghetti bolognese or kind of a hearty soup or kind of like I'm trying to think of other things like lasagna or cannelloni or these types of things, or like chips, let's say for example, or you know, cooked breakfast. And all of these things are exactly fine on Slimming World. In fact, they are kind of like the base parts of the diet. Those types of foods are great because they fill you right up, they comfort you, they make you feel satiated, but they don't make you feel like you need to overeat them. And I think I've said at the beginning here, this will not happen straight away because obviously if you're used to overeating, you will have a tendency to want to overeat these foods. And the benefit is it doesn't actually matter that much. You can kind of overeat these foods if you need to over them, and you will still lose weight. And over time, your body will adjust and the appetite suppression will start to kick in. And you'll probably find you don't need to eat as much. But I very big meals. I eat large platefuls. I have a large plate and I fill it right up. Sometimes I go back for seconds. Just in my food video with the spaghetti bolognese, I had a big heaped plate. Then I went back for a bit more. Then I had a nectarine. You know, I had a lot of food. But that's perfectly fine. And I think that's why Slimming World works. It doesn't require you to self-impose your own limits on your free food. Just eat it, and it will naturally stop you eating too much. There's quite a few times where I'm really, really, really enjoying something really delicious, and then suddenly my brain goes, no, had enough, and I literally can't, you know, I'm not finishing anymore. I've literally just switches off in my head. And I think that's why Slimming World works for me, because it allows me just to eat. Like, I'm hungry, I make some food. It's always Slimming World friendly because I've been doing Slimming World now for, you know, I suppose a year and a bit now, a year and 3 months or so. So that's the food I'm going to be making. I eat it, it's delicious, I eat loads of it, I eat it right up until I've had enough of it, then I then I don't eat anymore. And then sometimes I scoot it back in the pan, have it again another day, mix it with, you know, so it's quite a natural process whereby I don't eat too much. What else have we got here? You can do whatever dietary requirements you have because no food is banned. So that slow and well works for me because recently I've kind of dabbled in going vegan just because I've been vegetarian all my life and I've never tried going vegan. I just thought, why not give it a try? So I've just been doing a few bits like just having almond milk instead of milk. I don't really have any eggs anymore just because I don't really like eggs anyway. I only eat them really because they're free on Slim and World. I've been dabbling in what to do instead of cheese. I haven't really succeeded on, I was going to fill cannelloni tubes with tofu. I haven't succeeded on that because that's not delicious at all. So I've gone back to my mozzarella in my cannelloni tubes and quark on top just because it's more delicious. But I can do that. I can do that on Slim and World, and if I am gluten intolerant, I can do that on Slim and World. I can, you know, I don't have to have bread. It's not compulsory. You know, there's other things you can have within the Healthy Extra B. You know, you've got your nuts and stuff, so you don't have to have the bread. You know, there's no, because it's a framework using food. There's nothing banned. There's no problem with what you're eating because none of it's all of it's just food. So it's not with Slimming World. It's not about it's not having special foods. It's about putting yourself a framework in place in order to interact with food. So you know, for me that's great because it means no matter what happens in my life, no matter what changes I have, what stuff I need to achieve, what things I have nearby, you know, if I'm going to someone else's house, I can eat different things, you know, I can food optimize wherever I am, and I think I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that I don't have to have special food, I just have to have a special framework around food, and I appreciate that. I've got one last one here. It says, it is often considered a home cooking intense diet. And yes, you can do that, but meals can be very simple and lots of pre-packaged food is free or low in sins. It is more expensive to do it that way, however. So, lots of thing about Slimming World. It's a great way of eating, but there's a lot of cooking involved. So rarely, when you're out and about, do you have free food. I mean, obviously you can find bits and pieces, so there's pasta and sauces and there's lots of like pre-packaged foods and such, and it is more expensive, but there's lots of home cooking. When I first did it, I was like, it's just forever cooking. Living World's so annoying because you always constantly have to cook everything, but in reality, firstly, yeah, you are going to need to do some cooking, but that's because you're feeding yourself, so, you know, it's okay to cook. And secondly, you do not have to be cooking elaborate meals in order to get some taste in there. I mean, the types of meals I make now are simple and effective. They get the job done. They're full of speed. They're full of taste. They're satisfying. They're functional. And then, you know, I make curry. It's extremely easy to make the curry I make. It's really not. It's like the easiest meal I make, and it's probably the most delicious meal I make, so it's not hard. I make, you know, spaghetti bolognese is a very simple dish. It's not complicated, but this is all vegetarian wise, so I don't know about the meat kind of thing. I wouldn't really know how to cook all the meat stuff. But I think it's as complicated as you want to make it. I mean, you can have noodles and bean sprouts, and that's great because bean sprouts are a speed food. You have noodles, bean sprouts, and soy sauce, and that's an extremely easy meal to make. Yeah, it's perfect on Slimming World. So I think especially with a home cooking type of thing, I think I'd originally, at the early end, just kind of using it as another excuse that I can't do it because there's so much cooking involved. But in reality, you know, you can make it as hard or as complicated as you like, really. Obviously, there's loads of Slimming World ready meals that you can use, and there's loads of other things like that. But again, they're more expensive, and realistically, you can make your own food quite simply and quite quickly. You know, within a half an hour time frame. Often, if you do have any extra time, you can always make things ahead and, you know, freeze and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a lot of time, but I've sort of whittled down the meals that are fast and quick, and just make those all the time, and it's okay. So yeah, and that is just a little bit about why Slimming World works for me. Just a few bits that I've kind of thought about. I would love to know why Slimming World works for you. I'd love to know, yeah, the reasons why. The reasons why you've stuck at it for so long. The reasons why you chose it over other possible ways of weight loss. The reasons why you would choose it over again if you had the opportunity, in terms of if you went back in time, would you choose this or would you choose something else? Have a little think what other questions to ask to make sure I'm covering everything. Yeah, and I think the last question I'd like to ask is I'd like to know kind of realizations that you realized along the way, whereby you realized just what a good plan Slimming World is, when you felt those excuses and those complications kind of drift away from yourself, when you realize whether you were getting in the way of yourself, and just how you can let Slimming World take you on the journey of weight loss if you don't get in the way of it. So yeah, I think it would be lovely to know that. I'm up too late and I'm very tired and I'm just rambling. So I hope that was interesting, and I'm going to do another video. Obviously not tonight, because at some point I need to go to sleep. But yeah, I'll do another video soon on the other one, bolster eating. I've got to figure out, I've only just sort of come across the concept really, and only just realised that that's something that is one of those trigger points for me. So it's one of the last binge eating situations I find myself in, really. I've worked my way through quite a fair selection of binge eating situations, and bolster eating is one of those ones that's lingered on. So, you know, basically where you eat in preparation of a difficult event. So I'll do a video on that, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. See you later, bye.